provides brings in lots of benefits, decreasing the need for a transfusion later in term baby or better hemoglobin levels. But if you look into a preterm baby, then the benefits are huge. Major morbidities like need for inotropes, incidence of intravenous hemorrhage, incidence of necrotizing enterocolitis, better hemodynamic stability. So there are multiple and significant numbers, some even going to the extent of something like 30 to 40% decrease in some of these major morbidities. So it becomes very important in these preterm babies. So NRP has recognized this a lot. So I think it is there. Even the previous versions of NRP were recommending delayed cord clamping. But now what had happened is that even the preparatory stage, where he asked some questions, so this has been added as one of the preparatory questions itself, the fourth question, where you just, even before the delivery, you discuss with the obstetrician what is the managed plan, what's going to be the plan for umbilical cord management. So because we know that this is an intervention done by the obstetrician, there's no point, we know this, unless we get into interacting with the obstetrician, take them on board, it's hardly practiced then said actually. So we should insist upon delayed cord clamping. So NRP right now recommends for all babies who are stable, who are not requiring resuscitation, whether it is term or preterm, to practice delayed cord clamping. Only the time is different. When WHO goes for a longer duration, like 1 to 3 minutes, NRP says at least 30 to 60 seconds of to wait for that much time, irrespective of the mode of delivery. The only caution is that okay, if a baby requires resuscitation, NRP still recommends an immediate cord clamping and separating the baby, taking it to the resuscitation table. So we know cord milking is an alternate option. So, but the word of caution given by NRP is that in less than 28 weeks gestation, it may be dangerous. There is some evidence to say that it can increase the risk of intravenous hemorrhage. So, it strongly NRP recommends not to do or take cord milking when the gestation is less than 28 weeks. More than 28 weeks, preferably delayed cord clamping. If that is not possible, at least do cord milking.
You understand that? And in term and term babies, this is going to happen. But in which case, one is that you said that baby not crying at birth will not go for early cord, will not go for delayed cord clamping, cut the cord and take with the recess cord. That's fine. Is there anything else where you will still say that cut it immediately and bring it to the recess cord?
Obviously, the placental circulation has to be intact. Whenever there is an interruption in the placental supply, like there is a bleeding abruption of placenta, or even a placenta pria which is already started bleeding a lot, where there is an antibiotic hemorrhage, abnormalities in the cord, so cord accidents, cord ruptures. Obviously, these are all contraindications to do. We should be figure, because it can lead to more blood loss and it will put the baby in more danger. So we are, apart from this, others are all relative contraindications. These are the major absolute contraindications for a delayed cord.
You can see here that you got two groups where you got the baby is ventilated first and clamped first. Those who were ventilated first had little bit more abnormal gases in comparison to those who were ventilated first. Those are clamped first. So the clamping of the cord against ventilated first. So in that case, do you want to throw any light on this kind of situation? And I know that you got some pioneering work on this.
Yes, thanks for the question, sir. This is a wonderful animal experiment which showed us that actually, even though we're saying that time alone is not a factor when we talk about placental transfusion, the amount of blood which moves from placenta to the baby, there seems to be a significant role in breathing. Once the baby starts breathing, that negative pressure again and difference in pressure allows a lot of blood to move in. So this experiment, what they did, the animal experiment, was comparing like what happens when breathing happens and then you go and clamp the cord later, what they call as a physiological clamping of the umbilical cord. And the other scenario where something like an early cord clamping, where the clamp is cut, then only the baby starts breathing. So in a nutshell, what they had shown is that if you clamp the umbilical cord first and then only the ventilation happens, the baby starts breathing, there is a lot of disturbances in the heart rate of the baby. Even if you look into the perfusion status in multiple organs, like what happens in the lungs, what happens to the coronary circulation, and even to the brain circulation, which is measured in this animal experiment. So all had a lot of variations. It takes a long time for the pulmonary circulation to stabilize. It doesn't increase the pulmonary blood flow significantly. Whereas in the reverse, if you just wait, allow the baby to breathe, so when that happens, and then later we clamp the cord. So obviously there is a significant increase in the pulmonary blood flow, obviously which will increase the oxygenation And of course, in the other organs also, the coronary circulations and the brain circulations are more stable. So this formed the basis for experiments where people thought that yes, even in babies who are not breathing at the time of birth, so can be this delayed cord clamping might be very beneficial to them. But the challenge was in practicing it. How do we do resuscitation?
Yes.
Because we can't just withhold resuscitation. So there are some pioneering work from. So we came across the initial trolley called the Basics trolley, which was done in UK, where they designed a special equipment which can come very close to the bedside of the mother, and with an intact cord, people attempted resuscitation. So we developed interest in that field. We wanted to do a study on that. We thought whether we'll be able to buy the trolley somewhere for the experiment. So we realized that was not possible. So we tried designing our own trolley with the local support from Chennai, from a company, Phoenix Medical Systems. So it took us around 1.5 to 2 years to develop a device. So this device is capable of coming very close, again having all the features. Having all the features inbuilt is needed for resuscitating even preterm babies, like all suctions, oxygen, TPs, resuscitator, all kinds of support systems and monitoring systems, where the receiving trolley can come very close, that means within 30 to 40 centimeters from the introitus, whether it is LSA's delivery or a normal delivery, and baby can be received with an intact cord, and all resuscitating measures can be performed. And we've done a clinical trial also to show that actually it is feasible to use this equipment in Indian delivery rooms, even in preterm babies. But having said that, we should say that a lot of trials are happening right as on date. Even though we are speculating that this intervention might benefit these babies, we don't have any hard data to say that this really works in these babies. So we are looking forward, and we are also trying to do larger multicentric trials on this intervention.
Here friends, you can see here there are two groups again I shown the same slide. If you ventilate first and if you clamp first. Those where the babies are ventilated first, you can see better FiO2s, better DO2s, better air exchanges and the better CO2s. On top of that, you can see here the comparison to ventilation and the clamping. The places where the ventilation happened first, the heart rate and the oxygenation was good. Against where the clamping happened first, before ventilation, you can see there is a fall in the heart rate, and the moment it was ventilated, it improved. So priority maybe in a coming would be to ventilate this baby first, then clamping in a selected group of babies. Mangala has got pioneering work on that. Issue is how to bring this baby on the resident trolley while baby is not breathing and imaging. And this technique is known as an RIP. Normally RIP is known as rest in peace, but this is not the case. This is like resuscitation with intact placenta circulation. And in a time, in the next decade, maybe you are seeing more research on this area. Currently, not before 60 seconds, that is what we are going to practice. But in a time to come, you ventilate them first and then clamp the cord. That might be the dictum. Too early to say any final words on this. Am I right? Yes. So a lot of research is going on. That is happening in the next one. But till that time, clamp cord not before 120 or 60 seconds. That is the dictum. Now you can see it has got the. I will not spend more time. Neutral outcome is also better where the cord clamping was done after breathing purpose respiration, and that is where the word is. Dr. Amit, like you are working in one of the sophisticated hospital in Delhi, and NRP started recommending that you got different kind of preparation for when you talk about preterm care. So can you highlight on these gadgets which are now we are supposed to make available in the labor room? We are talking about the babies, the periviable, or about 22-weeker, 26-weeker, 22-weeker, 32-weeker babies. Which are these gadgets, and can you throw some light on what they are required?
Most often, importantly, we need to understand that we need to resuscitate these babies. We need sources of oxygen, we need sources of air, we need blenders, we need TPs resuscitators. So these are the commonest things. So we need TPs resuscitators because we can give better peak to these babies. We need positive pressure ventilation which TPs can provide. It can give a blended oxygen. If we don't have TPs resuscitator, at least if we can have an opportunity to have a blender so that we do not give 100% oxygen to these babies, because the oxygen is not just a medicine. It can have oxidative stress on these babies and increase the chances of a lot of our morbidities like ROP, like DPT. So in order to prevent all these morbidities, it is important to start our work from the resuscitation area. So we need to have good thermoregulation. We need to have good devices to have blended oxygen. We need to have good devices to resuscitate a babies to give positive pressure ventilation as well as heat. And last but not the least, how to monitor the oxygen of these babies. We need to have pulse oximetry. So we need to target our saturation and not just give free flow oxygen to all these babies intermittently.
Deepika wanted me to include this. That sir, this is important for this the people who are coming from the periphery, working the periphery, looking after small babies. Can you throw some light on this slide?
Thank you, sir. Sir, as Dr. Amit has rightly mentioned that TPs is the new resuscitative appliance that we try to use because it is very, very precise, accurate, and can be very easily titrated. But it needs, we need
blender.
a blender.
Yeah.
We need a blender so that we can titrate the FiO2. It is still possible to use the TP's resuscitator in resource-deprived settings where the blender is not available. If you have the central supply of flow and oxygen, using this chart, using this table, we can see how much of air and how much of FiO2 oxygen is needed.
Y is air and X is oxygen.
X is the oxygen.
And just the flow liter per minute.
This is the flow. So another important thing that I would like to emphasize with this slide is that as TPs is a flow-driven device, at the same settings, inadvertent increase in flow can lead to very hazardous increase in pressures. So it is very, very important when you go in the resuscitation or the delivery area, your settings should be set for a particular flow. So if you have a flow of 6 and it's a preterm where you want to start with 30% FiO2, as we can see in this table, for a flow of 60 where you need to give a FiO2 of 30%, you probably need, actually it is not possible here. So if you have a flow of 6, the maximum, the minimum that you can give is kind of 50%.
So that is much better than 100% that you otherwise give mixed with oxygen, with air, isn't it?
So it just tells you how much of oxygen and how much of flow of air that you need to blend to gain your target FiO2s.
So like when you are attending. Dr. Amit, like we are discussing about the NRP in last few lectures, and we are discussing about when to start. Like small babies always are worried about the going high oxygen to start with, and in that case, I have been worried. Where should I start? Should I start with the 21%? Should I start with 30%? Should I start 40%? And is there a research on that low versus high oxygen saturation?
So, obviously these are the two important questions. That number one, how much FiO2 should be initiated, and then how much the FiO2 should be enhanced while we are resuscitating the baby, and how do we decide about enhancing? So we have a lot of data which has come from our country also, from Dr. Ramji's and Dr. Ventu's trial, where they have shown for term babies, at least we should not start the resuscitation with higher FiO2s, we should start our resuscitation with room air. So this is very clear at least about the term babies, and you all should understand that oxygen is just not a medicine and you just keep giving free flow oxygen to these babies. The message which we should learn from this presentation is that please try to restrict your FiO2s in the labor room. Be very stringent about the use of pulse oximeters, and try to titrate your FiO2s based on the saturation targets which have been provided as per the ILCOR NRP guidelines or NRP Indian guidelines. So we should target at like 1 minute, we know it should not be like, it should be around 60 to 65, 2 minutes it should be 65 to 70, 3 minutes 75 to 80, 4 minutes 80 to 85, and 5 minutes around 85 to 90. So these are our saturation targets. We have like Dawson's normograms which have been put forward to target the saturation of from preterm to full-term babies. So we should titrate our FiO2. Yeah. So for preterm babies, as per the NRP guidelines, as of now, they recommend less than 35 weeks, we should use 25 to 30% FiO2, and then go up on the FiO2 as per our saturation targets, or if the heart rate is going down, we should keep increasing 10% to have a rise in the heart rate. So the two important things we should target is increase in the heart rate, and secondly, based on our saturation targets, the FiO2 should be titrated. And there have been studies which have tried to look both the low saturation groups, low FiO2 groups and the high FiO2 groups. People started with 100% and then came down on the saturations, based on the saturations. And the other groups, they started with the low FiO2 and went high based on the saturation targets. But however, it was found that the groups which had started off with the higher FiO2 and came down had much higher oxidative stress on these babies, and they had later on more chances of ROPs and BPDs in these babies. So in order to prevent these, as of now we are targeting from the lower FiO2s and going higher up as per the heart rate and the saturation of these babies.
So friends, it's very clear that for the preterm babies, you are going to start with somewhere about 25-30% and look at your pulse oximeter, which is attached to your right upper limb, pre-ductal saturation, and still the numbers to be chased will be same as term babies, which is already there in the Down normograms. At 1 minute with 60 seconds, always remember that 1 minute you are going to talk about 60 to 65, 2 minutes 65 to 70, 3 minutes 70 to 75, 4 minutes 75 to 80, 5 minutes 80 to 85, and 10 minutes 85 to 95. That would be your target, or for all babies, term and preterm. The difference is, are you going to start with oxygen or not? Anything more than 34 completed necessary room air resuscitation till you need chest compression. Chest compression time is where you are going to put 100% oxygen. For other group, less than 34 weeker, you need to start with some oxygen and always titrate with it. Now, having said that, in Indian scenario, like we pointed by Deepika, we do not have blender in all the labor rooms. Even in the base government setup, in base corporate setup, at times the labor room doesn't have, they do not have that kind of facility to have blender in every places. So that is where we are discussing about this normograms, where you can think of using this technique to adjust your FiO2